To my eternal shame, it's only over the past months that I really have understood the dangers posed to the human race by Islam, and that's why now I'm frantically making up for lost time. An atheist who hates labels, who's committed to freedom of speech, I've been devastated by how our politically correct governments across Europe are bowing to something that goes contrary to everything we've been fighting for centuries. We in the UK are suffering now because we never had a laid-down constitution, and consequently we now have a very blurred separation of powers, which is becoming a wonderful breeding ground for the legal restriction of freedom of speech and the piecemeal introduction of things like Sharia law. YouTube is doing its best to provide everybody with a forum to express their views, and it's been a wonderful source of information for my investigations into Islam. It's been very interesting to read comments by Muslims who, on the whole, unfortunately have seemed quite unable to enter into any coherent discussion, but see any criticism of their faith in degrees of fatwa worthiness. Unfortunately, it seems that there may be a cohesive strategy now by them to flag videos that they consider offensive. Of course, offensive to YouTube means something quite different, something like incitement to kill, or perhaps the depiction of child abuse, or something involving a crime that should be reported to the police. I think YouTube now have their work cut out reacting to each and every press of that little flag button before they allow the very often perfectly balanced videos to proceed. I've been heartened to read through lots of the messages of support that have been received from ex-Muslims, showing that it is possible to throw off the yoke of tribal superstition, and that a growing number of Muslims have had fundamental questions quite unanswered by the Holy Book. All that we in the West see normally is the united face of unquestioned belief within Islam, a wonderful example of the power of indoctrination of power-crazy misogynistic clerics, and a living reminder of how faith schools and the indoctrination of children must be outlawed. That so few have been able to pull the wool over the eyes of so many for so long and to such a degree is quite mind-boggling to someone like me, brought up in a reasonably educated middle-class England. And I'm proud to join this organisation, the Council of Ex-Muslims of Britain, and I feel humbled by the courage of their members. Now look, my friends on YouTube, I'd like to encourage you to support Maryam Namazie and the Council of Ex-Muslims of Britain. Their website details, along with how to subscribe and give them supports, on the video description. Please look at their 10-point manifesto, which is mentioned on the article by A.C. Graylings in the Guardian link of 2007. The 10 points in this manifesto are so powerful and so pertinent to our time that I'd ask you to consider copying them down and spreading them around a bit. Indeed, they're so powerful I can't resist reading them out for you again here. 1. Universal rights and equal citizenship for all. We are opposed to cultural relativism and the tolerance of inhuman beliefs, discrimination and abuse in the name of respecting religion or culture. 2. Freedom to criticise religion. The prohibition of restrictions on unconditional freedom of criticism and expression using so-called religious sanctities. 3. Freedom of religion and atheism. 4. Separation of religion from the state and legal and educational system. 5. Prohibition of religious customs, rules, ceremonies or activities that are incompatible with or infringe people's rights and freedoms. 6. Abolition of all restrictive and repressive cultural and religious customs which hinder and contradict women's independence, free will and equality. The prohibition of the segregation of sexes. 7. Prohibition of interference by any authority, family members or relatives or official authorities in the private lives of women and men and their personal, emotional and sexual relationships and sexuality. 8. Protection of children from manipulation and abuse by religion and religious institutions. 9. Prohibition of any kind of financial, material or moral support by the state or state institutions to religion and religious activities and institutions. And finally 10. Prohibition of all forms of religious intimidation and threats. Now someone needs to support these grassroots efforts to help ordinary frightened Muslims to find the courage to shake themselves free from the irrational and violent grip of Islam. And my question to you has to be this: if you're not going to support these people, then who will?